What's up, Fish 2? Bearded Bob once again, going through doing some water changes again today. Figured I'd take you along for the journey because it's kind of weird how I have things set up in this fish room. So these tanks all up here, except for this one with Aquadom in it that's got some blue bolts in it. There's some right there. These guys are, this is a different kind of water, obviously, for Caridina shrimp. The rest of these are Neocaridina and guppies, basically. So these are all tied to my main water system, and as you can see in the back there, each one of them has a flow-through tube in the back there. So when it's an overflow tube, I should say. So when this tank, when I add water to this tank, it automatically overflows any excess water back out the rear there, and it drains down into, let's see if I can see it back there. Hold on a second. There we go. Drains down into this gutter system here. And that goes all the way down. This one also, the Caridina tank also drains into this one too, but that's because it's just flowing out. It's not being recycled or anything. And then, sorry for the noise here, it goes down through this tube here. All these tubes kind of connect together, and it drains down into this really dirty area down here. This is mostly from this air pump down here. It's a really crappy air pump. It has rubber feet on the bottom, so that's what all that stuff is down there. It's the feet just falling apart, one piece at a time, and there's a cat toy. You know, why not? And another air pump over there that I don't really need. So it all flows down that tube into this condensate pump, and then that other tube over on this side pumps it up and out. And it comes down into this mess of tubes and such that I have going on here, and drains down to this really disgusting dirty sink. So that's where all the water goes. The water comes from, for all those Caridina or guppy tanks and Neocaridina tanks, comes from this. It goes through my reverse osmosis filtration system here. It's reverse osmosis deionizing. So there's two different stages of deionizing there. Those need to be recharged. They still work. They just they're color changing beads in there. So when they're this color, when they're brown, they're supposed to get changed out. But when I'm running water, it still brings the TDS down to 0. The TDS is the total dissolved solids. So this reverse osmosis filter up here takes out all but about 2 TDS, and these 2 filters take out the last 2. And this is also set up, you know, it's hooked up to the sink here. So let's see, we got this tube here. This goes to here. So it goes through these 2 pre-filters, a regular pre-filter and then a carbon block filter, and then it goes through this this stage up here, and then goes through, obviously, once it's treated, the effluent comes out down into this sink automatically. So that's this tube right here, and the rest of it, the good water, goes through both of these chambers, and then it goes down into this coil of crap that I've got there. But it flows down, as you can see, down into here, and in here. Hold on one sec, got a message on my phone. Down in here, let's see if I can do this without dropping all my stuff. Flows down into this barrel. So this comes into here as 0 TDS water. And then I remineralize it with this salty shrimp mineral GHKH plus. And so I will check it. I want to be around 3 to 350 is what I usually go for. See, we're at 343, so that's a little high for me usually. Like I said, less than 350. Closer to 300 is basically where I run all the tanks at. But as you can see, there is a DC pump up here. This is a Jabal. I should actually link it down in the comments down here, or down in the description or whatever. I'll link this pump down there. This is a, what is it? A 50-watt pump, and this one pumps always circulating the water back into itself. So I've got this little tube here that flows the water back into here, so it constantly mixes and keeps the water turning. This right here is the shutoff, basically. So if this tank fills up all the way, it'll block this line that goes up into these deionizing filters. But on the back here, there's a hose right there. This part here will make it so if this gets shut off, it'll shut off the water coming in to my RO system. Now, the thing to remember is my water pressure here where I live is like really extremely high. So I don't rely on that to automatically shut off my water when this drains or when this thing fills up. I always keep an eye on it. I set a timer on my phone. I just come down and check all the time. But that will shut it off, and it has. It's worked when I've forgotten to set a timer. it has shut the system off, and it lasted all night. No blow-ups or blowouts or anything. But I think my water pressure is like 100 and something psi, which is a little extreme. Again, there's nothing I can really do about that. I guess I could put a throttling valve where it comes into the house there, but I haven't had any issues. There's no water lines blowing up or anything like that. So, and this is a mess. This is just, you know, I started adding pieces without really thinking about how I was going to do it, and then I started adding more. So in the future, I'd like to rearrange all this stuff and have one just downspout pipe coming through here with these tubes that come from the condensate pumps teeing into one, you know, maybe a 2-inch PVC that drains directly into the sink. The effluent line from the RO system or whatever definitely needs to be in there too, so it can always spit out the bad water. And then also we have crap, I can't remember what they call this. So this limits, this is a flow restrictor. This loop here kind of bypasses. So right when I turn it on, so as soon as I turn this on here, so let's just do that. So I'll turn this water line on. We have water immediately coming out of the effluent line, and it's coming out at a pretty fast clip. That's basically full water pressure. So what it's doing is it's back flushing this filter. So from there, the water runs straight through here. There's no restriction or whatever. And when I close this valve here, as you can see here, the water pressure will significantly drop. There, I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it dropped off. So this, you keep it open so that you don't mess up your RO filter. It'll keep the membrane lasting a lot longer. But so here I've also got this gone here. So this is showing us, let's see if we can see it. Well, it's showing 44, 42, and the TDS is kind of going down right now. It'll drop all the way down to 2, and then that's the main line flowing out to this filter, or to these, I should say. And then if you flip this over here, it'll show you the TDS that is being flowed out, and right now it says 0. So 0 TDS is flowing through this into here, and it's refilling this barrel. So from all that crap that I just covered, it'll flow up. This one stays open all the time here. The rest of the water flows up into this tube. This is all makeshift again too. It's been sitting like this for about a year. So this valve here runs my bottom 2 big tanks and the set of 4 tanks that I have over in the corner. This one here runs the whole rest of the fish room. And yeah, I know I should probably actually run an actual PVC line up and then tee off elsewhere. But I just wanted to give you a basic rundown of where the water comes from. So give me a sec, I'll get over to where it comes out over by the tanks. All right, so up here is where it tees off. This side goes to these top tanks here. That other line that I showed you, the other valve, runs this tank, and then that set of 3 and 1 tank down below. And that's getting torn down. One of the tanks is already kind of torn down, drained out anyways. The other ones run to these 2 tanks. So that's that valve there. Over this way, we have this valve that I just added in. As you can see, it was really nicely plumbed in. This one runs over to my rack back over on here. So this runs all the way over into this spot. I also have the red line is straight RO water if I want to do top offs, which I usually don't do except for on my Carradina tank. The blue line coming down goes into this little filling wand that I kind of made up. And so that's right here. It tees right off of there. There's a valve there, and there's a valve right here. So if I turn this on, this will give me my RO water from that barrel. And see, it doesn't come out too fast. All of my overflows can keep up with the water coming in. So what I do is I'll hook it on one of the tanks, one of these ones up here, and I'll run it for probably half an hour at a time. And that's to make sure that I get a good, decent water change anyways. Because what I'm doing is I'm filling water up. I'm not draining it out first and then refilling it with clean water. So I'm kind of mixing bad water with good water. Not really bad water, but just old water with new water, I should say. So that's for all of those. I use that wand for that. For this one over here, this one's actually getting taken down today, hopefully. And it's gonna end up down here where it was meant to be like 8 months ago. Just never got installed. This tank here is a little different too. Let's see, let me hang this thing up. All right, so this tank here, I didn't want to drill this one because it's a 40-gallon tall. And I'm not sure what kind of glass. I got this tank, I bought it secondhand, so I'm not sure what it is. So this one has a valve right here that connects to this line here, and this line runs down into the tank. I tried to hide it, but I'm not very good at hiding stuff. I need to get some more good tall plants growing to like cover this up. But this is just like a little DC pump or a little AC pump or whatever, and that'll pump it up and out. But I've noticed that since this stays underwater and I close this valve here when I'm not draining water, it actually keeps a siphon going. So this whole line is filled with water, and if I just turn the valve, it'll just start draining the water out. And then that'll drain down into that line in the back that I showed you at first, and it goes into that condensate pump and then back over to the sink to drain out. So what I do is I'll drain this one down, so I actually drain the water out, and I'll drain it down just past where the filter stem comes down, and then I'll refill it with clean water, because there's a lot of guppies in here. I don't know if it doesn't really look like it from this camera angle, but there's probably 100 or so in there. Lots of babies and stuff too, kind of hiding around. I got rid of most of the crap that was floating on top, and I cut back a lot of my plants. I'm going to get some better plants like this Rotella Hydra growing. So anyway, taking it along for a little water change, right? So water pumps back over, and then it pumps into here. These tanks, I have it set up kind of nice. I've got the RO, the straight RO water, and the treated water on this side running into these tanks. These ones are also on the automatic overflows. You can see the overflows in the back there. These two are not, and this 5.5 gallon one is not, because I didn't want to try to drill this little guy. These two, I've slowly over time, I've been pulling a tank out, cleaning it out, draining it, moving all the plants around, drilling it, and then setting it all back up, letting it cycle, and then adding fish back to it. So these two got done. All of these ones got done. Those two did not, and these two did not, and that one will never be. But this is the only size tank that'll fit in this little area that I have left over here. Measure twice, cut once, and then you end up with, you know, full size. Anyway, so these two, this one is actually just has a pleco left in it, and this will be getting taken down, and I'll be drilling this one, or maybe using one of the tanks that I have that's already drilled to replace this, just so I can have it on automatic overflow. It's just so much nicer. I never have to worry about it. I can just turn on the water and set a timer and come back over. I don't have to worry about draining the water or overflows or any of that other stuff anymore. It's so nice. And it's pretty easy once you get everything set up. So once you have it set up, you know, you start drilling your tanks. You're going to waste a few 10-gallon ones because this glass is pretty thin. So buy a couple extra if you plan on redoing your fish room that way. But so let's do this. I got to do some water change on this guy. We'll just, while we're talking here, we'll turn that. So this one will start draining down. As you can see, the water level up there, I've got a mark here. I don't follow that anymore. This is about 10%. I usually go a little bit further. I'll wait for the filter to stop running, and then I'll start refilling it. So that one's draining. Like I said, not very fast, but fast enough. And the best thing about this, because it's not all the way down on the bottom, the water will actually stop siphoning out once it gets to about this level, which, ask me how I know that. So about half the tank will drain out, and it'll stop the siphon. And then to get that siphon going, I just plug in this pump. Right now it's not plugged in. I haven't had to plug it in because it keeps that siphon. So that's, I mean, back to it. So we're draining water here now. I'll touch base here in a couple minutes when it drains down to a different level. Be right back. So I figured while I'm waiting, I'll start filling this tank. So on this one, I just open this valve, and it'll automatically start filling this tank. As you can see, the water's coming out right there. I kind of have it tucked back behind this filter there, and I kind of cut the polycarbonate out of the way so it'll fit. But when I'm filling these tanks, in case I forget, I always leave these tanks open when they're being filled. That way I know that I should be double checking to make sure the valves are shut off before I walk up the stairs. Stairs are right up there. So this one has been having some algae issues. As you can see, there's some cladophora algae just kind of clinging to everything, all the parts and pieces in here. There was a ton of it in here before, along with a ton of duckweed, and I got most of that duckweed out of there. See some little specks floating I still need to grab out. Getting rid of duckweed is just a horrible process. It takes forever. Just the best thing is to never have it. This tank never had it, and gosh, I hope it never does. Alright, so I'll be back when this thing drains down a little bit more. I'll go over to this valve here. This one that I added in goes over to this rack of tanks here. And as you can see, it comes in kind of haphazardly back here, and it splits off to this tank and that tank. This is my daughter's tank, my son's tank. And then I've got a couple of tanks up here, and my son has another tank right over there with some guppies and stuff in it, and a betta. So this tank has a filler tube too that comes out of the other side here, because I don't know what I'm doing and can't plant things properly. It just comes out of there for now. Maybe someday I'll get to it and run some PVC and have everything teed off nicely, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see that really happening anytime soon. So this is just an overflow tank of guppies. These are mostly babies in there. These are K-class endlers that look okay. I'm not a huge fan. They're not turning out the same way that the picture showed them when I bought them about a year and a half ago, or a year ago, I don't even know. So these ones are just kind of living their best life. If anybody wants to purchase them, send me a message down below there, and we can get you set up with them, or join up on the Patreon. I'll link that down below too. Patreon will have some fish coming up for sale shortly. I've had a hard time getting things set up this summer with shortages of pretty much everything including bags, breather bags. I don't have an oxygen supply, so they have to go in breather bags to ship, and I couldn't get breather bags, so I couldn't sell anything this year. I've done some local sales and stuff, but that's about it. So yeah, so that one drains onto this side and that side and these two, and then this wand up here is just another one, just like I showed you before. Valve's kind of back here or whatever, but yeah, so that's how I changed the water on these. These are all overflow tanks. Anything that I add to this rack will always be drilled from now on. It's just so much easier. All right, I'll be back when this other tank is about down to where I want to refill it. So I'll kind of go over one more thing. So this tank here has got a big matin filter in the back. These do too. Getting rid of the matin filters. Again, if anybody wants to purchase them, they're set up for 10-gallon tanks. I got them from Flip Aquatics quite a while ago, but I got a big stack of them that I pulled out of these tanks. They're still good, but it's too much maintenance for me. In order to clean those, you have to basically drain the tank all the way down, pull the filter out, rinse it out really good. It's not how I want to do the fish room. It's a lot easier for me just to change, pull out these filters. Ooh, look at all that algae growing on there. To pull out these filters here and bring them out. It's a lot easier, quicker. So matin filter still on this one, and it's got a pump in the back here. Let's see if I can see it. So down on the bottom of here, it's got one of those pumps. This one is constantly running, and it goes up and spits out water through that matin filter. And then it also comes up and out, and that's how this one is drained. So this has got a little valve there. If I turn that, it'll just start pumping the water out, which is a good quick way to drain those tanks. But as you can see here, I mean, it's a nice way to hide all of your, heaters and whatever else you have going on back behind these tanks. And it works really good as a filtration system. It's basically, like a little hang-on back filter. It pumps the water out, sucks it in through this big matin filter. It's a big filter area, and it works out really good. But like I said, in order to clean that, you got to tear the whole tank down. Not really what I want to do, especially with these guys. So this one eventually will get drilled too. I don't know when, because this Aquarium substrate took quite a while to cycle. Just because of how it is or whatever, but it helps hold the TDS down. Let's see where we're at here. It's only been a couple of minutes. Look at the algae growing on top of the light up there from the splashback from that filter. And this one's got, quite a bit of filtration. These filters get changed. I pull them out and rinse them every couple of days. So you can see all the schmag that builds up on them quick. All the cladophora algae that's getting sucked into there. And then there's some cladophora algae down in here too. See, it's starting to take hold. Hopefully cutting back the plants that were kind of shading everything out down here will help these plants grow up faster. It's got some water wisteria and some whatever that stuff is there, the Ludwigi, I think. But I think in the future, this is my plan for everything. I'm gonna get a whole bunch of Anubias nana petite and Anubias nana, which is this bigger one here. It's the same species, just a larger leaf variety. So I've ordered a bunch the other week or whatever, and got them all propagating down on these rocks and sticks and stuff down in this tank. There's nothing in this tank except for those plants right now, so it's pretty heavily fertilized, and I change the water regularly on it. These two will get torn down and replaced. This one has, like I said, just one pleco left in it. This one's still got a batch of cherry shrimp, fire reds supposedly. They're pretty good, but they're all hiding. I haven't put any food out. And there's one right there. You can kind of see. Oh, there's one right. Nope, that's a snail. Let's see. Yeah, there's one back in there. But this one's pretty shaded out from this duckweed. So I mean, it's thick. You see it just piles up on top of itself. Bah! Get rid of that. So one of these days that'll get scraped out and changed out too, but I think we're at a point now where I'm going to start refilling, so I'm going to close this valve in the back. So no more water will drain out of this tube. As you can see, I didn't have to plug it in or do anything. It's got a siphon that's constant. And so I'll stick this hose, let's see, I'll just hang it on the corner of the thing, try to get it kind of splashing some water in, and we'll get this drain. Oh, I gotta shut this one off now. So that's the only issue with using these little tubes for everything, is if one's running, then the other one can't. But right now, this is running full bore, and so are these tanks here. These ones are getting water changed too. These ones, if you haven't been to my channel in a while, or if you don't know, this 55 gallon is not the kind of glass you can drill, so I've got this homemade overflow that I built, and it drains out and does the same thing, kind of drains down into a condensate pump down there. And I think this one is the only big tank that I have that's drilled. The rest of them are rocking these homemade overflows, and they're pretty easy to build. I've got a link on my channel, or I've got a video on my channel where I explain them. There's another one back there, another one down there. He said this 40 gallon is drilled, and these two 40 gallons can be drilled. I just haven't. I had those auto overflows that I built, so I just used them. I suppose I could do that on this tank too someday, but we'll touch base here as soon as we get closer to top off time. It takes probably about 20 minutes to 30 minutes depending on how fast the water's flowing or whatever. But I'll touch base in a minute. So still at her, just filling up. We're about half the level that we drained out. Still going, you know, decently fast. I got, like I said, water filling on the other couple of tanks too. But while I was waiting, I figured I had this chunk of Anubias. I don't remember if it's Fraseri or whatever it was. This big stem, and it started finally growing a little bit of a plant on it. I've had that chunk of root for a while. Let's see if I can dig in there. Yeah, you can see it right there. That long piece started growing some plant out of the end of it, so I figured I might as well glue it to a rock while I was sitting here. This is what I've been using, just some gel super glue. This stuff works good, comes out pretty good. It's got little squeezer handles on the side that you squeeze. What you don't know is, like, when you first get it, it looks just like this, except for this clear part is sticking up a little bit, and you got to twist it to cut into the part that's holding the super glue. But this lasts quite a long time, and it's easy to control. And yeah, anyway, that's, I don't remember if what the name is. Cyanoacrylate. There you go. So it's just pure cyanoacrylate with a gelling agent, and is not harmful to fish or plants. And that's what I used to glue all of these pieces to rocks and various things. You can see, like this one is glued to a rock, but this one's just kind of free floating. So is that one. Some of these are glued to rocks, whatever. Some of them you have to tuck down into the rocks there, and it's a pain in the butt. Some of them are tied, like this is on a piece of lava rock that's just tied to it. I think this one's just tied to it as well, obviously, and that's not Anubias, that's Godzilla Bucephalandra or whatever. This one needs some plants. These ones all died. It was all shaded out with duckweed and whatever else was floating on the top of here for forever. So most of these plants in the back there died. Oh, there's one piece of that in there. So there's a few anyway. But just a quick little recap, just, you know, some super glue or whatever to help you glue things to rocks. Works out pretty good. I'll be back in a few. While we're waiting, I just don't want the video to stop recording here. I'm just kind of putting it on pause every time I'm taking a little break here. This is, these guys are purple mosaic Dumbos, the females, and this male came from a different batch of Dumbos that I had, actually that my son had. He's got some pretty nice ones over in his tank. These guys here. So I kind of took the one that looked okay, but not his best ones out of this tank. So you can see these guys are just amazing looking, and that guy right there, big old fat guy. But all these males are just awesome. Check these guys out. So I stole one of those, to add a male to this tank because I didn't have a purple mosaic male. This was an order that I got that I didn't get what I ordered, so they just let me keep the purple mosaics and they sent me the right ones in the mail instead. So these guys have been around for a while. This is like the second batch of fry from the females that dropped that I got, and they didn't drop any males either, so all of these ones are second or third generation now, and now I finally just stuck a male in there to see what we make out of these. So some kind of Dumbo with, I think these ones were like a red dragon Dumbo. Yeah, he's pretty cool. And then these are purple mosaics. And then this is my orange Neo project that I've been doing for a couple years now. So I don't know how they're coming out on the camera, but these are pretty vividly orange. There's some that are not as good in there. Like this one's kind of got some spots missing, so that one will come out. But what I've been doing is just letting them breed. I took all the orange-ish colored ones that I had from my yellow Near Caridina tank, and a bunch of really good orange colored ones that came from my coal tank, and kind of added them together and started pulling out the ones that didn't look right after a couple generations. You can see this guy's not ideal, so he'll come out and go in the coal tank. There's one that's like almost completely clear right there. That one will come out. But most of these, like you can see the one right in the center of the frame right now is pretty vivid on the orange front. So this is a couple generations, probably been a year or so in the making here, and they're finally starting to get mostly all orange. Still a couple of not so good ones. Like I said, that's what you do when you're trying to make your own variety here. You just got to keep weeding out the bad ones and keep going back to it. All right, taking another break. Be back in a minute when this other tank is full, hopefully. All right, we're just about filled up here. Just another couple of minutes. As you can see, this tank is not sitting exactly level though. Look at that, a little less of a gap. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but this is a homemade stand, so it is anchored into this big stand just to be sure, and I think I anchored into this column down here in the basement too. Not really sure, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's very stable, but obviously I didn't notice the level was off here. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, maybe this tank is off a little bit too. Who knows? These big tall tanks are pretty tough like that. So we're just about there. I'll touch base in just a sec. Enjoy a little top-down view of this tank here. That's pretty cool. Right through the glass on the top, looking down into this tank right next to this tank that I'm filling up right now. I just thought that was kind of cool. Maybe you guys wanted to see a top-down view. And one more use of those pumps, you saw that I have the one in the tank that's draining right now that we're refilling, that we just have it on like a siphon mode. I also have this tube right here, gets drained down here, but that's how I pump these tanks out down on the bottom here. It's a lot easier to pump them out for me with this little pump. Again, doesn't pump very fast, but the one for here, I have one more that's gonna go in here that makes it a little bit easier to drain and fill. These ones have been drained, but got to fill. And then that's the other use for those little pumps there too. Maybe I'll put a link down below if you guys wanted to pick up one of those. They're pretty cheap and they work pretty well. And it looks like we're pretty much there. This is about, I usually go a little bit higher than where I can see because I don't like seeing the water line and leaving the stains on the glass or whatever. So we'll go up just a tiny bit more and then we're gonna be all set. And this tank's gonna have its about 15% water change. This one gets it probably 3 or 4 times a week because there's so many guppies in here. All right, so we'll touch base in a sec. Actually, yeah, 1 sec. And there we go, we're all filled up. So what I'll do now is I'll shut this valve off, hopefully without pulling it out of the tank while I do it. My fat hand in the way. All right, so that's done. No more water is coming out of there. And usually I'll move on to the next tank. So with these ones up here, I just move this piece of glass out of the way, stick it in there, and then just turn it on and let it go. Usually don't have it hanging into the water, but one-handed it makes the things kind of tough. So I'll do that, and I'll put this piece of glass over it to hold it in place. And then now this one will be draining or refilling and pumping the water out. I'll let that run for about a half an hour like this one did, and we'll move on. So one at a time. I could also set these up so that they automatically, each one of them would get a little bit. So these ones down here, I can adjust these valves so that I can fill all of these tanks at the same time. goes a lot slower that way. So I'm not sure how much water changeover I'd be getting. I find it easier just to do it like this. But like I said, I just want to take you around and show you how I do my water changes. I know this is going to be different from a lot of people, but just little ideas. That's all about what this place is for, is different little ideas. Maybe you can use something that I showed you today. Most of these things I picked up from other YouTubers or from people that I've seen running their fish rooms certain ways. So little tidbits information, they always help. These guys are nice and happy. They're gonna get some food here pretty quick. And I guess we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Peace.